Welcome back to Fresh Fit and Healthy YouTube, and today's gonna be a little different because I'm bringing you in a kitchen and we're gonna show you guys foods that people think are healthy but aren't healthy. So here are 6 foods you have to be careful of when trying to buy healthy foods, and then also names on labels that could be a little misleading. So the first one is organic, and I'm saying this with caution because some foods are better organic, but things like ice cream aren't necessarily better. Organic chocolate ice cream, okay guys, it still has the same amount of calories and fat as regular ice cream, and I mean, I guess the only thing good about it is it's made with organic cane sugar, but come on, you've got to be careful. Just because things say organic doesn't mean it's healthier. There are some foods that are better organic, but that's for another video. Next up on the list, any kind of sports drinks or any kind of, should I say, sugar water. So Gatorade, yes, it can be good for really intense athletes, and even at that, I caution it because they way overdrink it. Gatorade is basically sugar and water and some electrolytes. So it would be much better to drink water and get in those electrolytes in another way. Or make sure at least you're using the low sugar varieties of these kind of sports drinks. Be careful, read your labels. Like this has 21 grams of sugar per 8 ounces. And who drinks only 8 ounces of Gatorade when they're drinking Gatorade? Almost no one. This one right here has 5 servings in it. That would be over 100 grams of sugar you're putting in your body. So be careful. The next one on the list is frozen dinners, guys. So be careful with frozen dinners. They can seem healthy. This one even says made with organic corn masa, and it's a black bean verde, so that all sounds really good. But it still has 780 milligrams of sodium, and it has 10 grams of fat, only 7 grams of protein for the whole thing. And the likeliness of this all filling you up and you not wanting something else to eat is probably rare. So be careful with frozen dinners. If you have to resort every once in a while to them, at least make sure that they're low sodium varieties and low fat varieties and not a ton of unnatural stuff in it. But try to stay away from them. Try to just meal prep on Sundays and have dinner ready that isn't in a frozen dinner form. And if anything, cook a lot when you're cooking for one meal and freeze it yourself. And that's a frozen dinner I approve. Next up on the list, veggie chips. Guys, just because it has the word veggie in it does not mean it's healthier. Don't get me wrong, I love these things. 30% less fat than regular potato chips, no artificial flavors, preservatives. So I mean, if you're going to eat potato chips, this might be a little bit of a healthier alternative, but guys, it's not free game, it's not free calories, it's not free anything. So just because it has the word veggies in it, you can't just be eating these without guilt and thinking, oh, I can eat as many of these as I want. Everything in moderation if you're gonna be eating any kind of chip or any kind of processed bagged form of anything, you should be enjoying in moderation and not be going overboard on. Take a portion of this if you want them, because I eat them, I like them, but make sure you're portioning things out so you're not overdoing it because they aren't that much healthier than a regular potato chip. All right, next one on the list is all natural peanut butters. Okay. Be cautious when it says natural on the label, guys. You have to read your ingredients because people are sneaky. They're sneaky labelers and they put stuff on the label that actually means nothing and they can get away with it. Because this natural Skippy still has sugar, still has oil, and still has salt added. So it's not any better than the other Skippy versions of peanut butter. But I do recommend buying all natural peanut butter, but make sure it's actually all natural. So for instance, this Smucker's Organic Creamy All Natural Peanut Butter actually only has peanuts and like 1% or less of salt. So this is a better choice, guys, than this one. Make sure when you're buying all natural peanut butter, almond butter, that it's actually all natural and no ingredients added. Okay, I saved the best one for last because this one really gets me angry because people think they're eating healthier because it says gluten-free. There's this whole gluten-free fad going on, and I could go on to a whole nother video about it. But if you're eating all the same kind of foods, but just the gluten-free version of them, it's not any healthier. Say these gluten-free Pop-Tarts, guys. They still have 40 grams of carbs and 19 grams of sugar for one little pastry, and you know you're not stopping at one. People think, oh, it says gluten-free, so I'm eating healthy. No, gluten-free is just using a different kind of flour than wheat flour. So unless you have a true gluten intolerance or you have celiac disease, you don't need to be eating gluten-free, and you don't need to be buying Pop-Tarts that are gluten-free, because all you're doing is spending more money and eating the same nutrition value of foods. So unless you have an intolerance or you have celiac disease, be cautious about buying gluten-free because you're just wasting your money. I definitely do suggest eating more whole carbs like sweet potatoes, brown rice, and stuff like that versus white bread or anything like that. But you don't need to be buying gluten-free, and don't think you're eating healthier just because it says gluten-free. So there you guys have it. There are 6 foods that you need to be careful of, and foods that might seem healthy but aren't. So guys, make sure you're reading your labels, make sure you're being cautious when you're buying foods, and just be careful about slogans and words that are right on front of the box or on the jar, because a lot of times they can be misleading, and you've really got to look on the back to the label to see if they truly pass the test and are truly healthy to be putting in your body. Make sure at the very least that you read the portion size on the label and also the ingredients that are in it. If it has more than like 6 ingredients or ingredients that you don't know, be cautious when buying it and make smart decisions. So until next time, hope you guys like this video. Tell me in the comments below what foods you have just recently found in your kitchen that you thought were healthy but aren't. Click the thumbs up, subscribe if you aren't already. See you later, guys.
Represent ANU at the Trans-Tasman Final, and I'd like to ask Dr. Ken Henry and Elise Hanton to give our $4,000 cheque to Rosanna Stevens.
Hi, my name is Rosanna Stevens. I'm the winner of the ANU 3-minute thesis competition and runner-up and People's Choice in the Trans-Tasman 3-minute thesis competition for 2014. And I'm a student here at ANU in the School of Archaeology and Anthropology, and I'm within the interdisciplinary and cross-cultural research program here at ANU. I'm here to give you my 3 top tips for getting the most out of your 3-minute thesis experience. So, my first tip, think about your slide. When I spoke, I had a blank slide, and it wasn't for no reason. When you get up there and you're speaking, you want to make sure that that 3 minutes that you have are as exciting and informative as possible. And one of the best ways that you can do that is by making sure that you really think about what's on the slide behind you. Don't just have a pretty picture because. Make sure that what you have behind you is helping explain what you're doing in a way that maybe your words can't. So for example, with my blank slide, I really wanted to communicate that the audience couldn't necessarily see something that I wanted them to. And through that concept, I was able to communicate a lot more about my research. Great things to include on a slide might be diagrams, you know, funny pictures that do relate to what you're doing. An illustration of what you're talking about can really help the audience go that extra step in understanding what you're talking about in a really useful way that helps convince them that what you're doing is really interesting. Tip 2, change or save the world. That might sound like a really big thing to do, but the 3-minute thesis is a really great time to check in with yourself about why you're doing your research and how it's important to you, but also how it might be important to the broader community. Remember that you're doing the 3-minute thesis because you're communicating your research to a lay audience. And a lay audience want to understand why you're passionate about what you're talking about. So sit down and think about how your research isn't necessarily changing everybody's lives, but is changing the world in a way. So for example, with my research, I'm writing a novel. Sure, that's my thesis. But on top of that, I'm actually wanting to interrogate the way that society functions to create a better sense of equality culturally and racially in Australia. And when you talk about your research in those terms, the audience can suddenly relate to what you're talking about in a new way that helps them shed light on why what you're doing is so weighted and vital and why you're passionate about it in the first place. Tip 3. In the words of a famous Disney princess, let it go. Letting it go might sound like a really difficult thing to do, but when you get up on that stage and you've done all of that preparation leading up to you speaking, you want to be able to get up there and make sure that there isn't an extra dialogue going on in your head, and it's really hard to stop that voice. People do the 3-minute thesis for all kinds of reasons. They do it because they're competitive. They do it because they like speaking. They do it because they want to challenge themselves to become better at communicating their research. Or in the case of me, I really wanted to make sure that my research was answerable to a broader audience and that they felt like they could talk about it to me. So when you get up there, no matter which reason you're engaging with to get up on that stage, you need to make sure that in that moment you rely on all of the practice that you've done and you just let it go. Enjoy the experience, and that's really hard to do, but a great way of practicing that is to use a space. Imagine that you are getting up in front of an audience. Imagine that there are lights on you. Close your eyes for a minute and then pretend that you really are starting it for the first time and there is no going back. You'll find that you will actually make a lot of mistakes that you didn't think that you were going to make in the first place, but also this surprising experience is going to mean that when it comes to getting up on that stage, you really can just let it go. So much more than just white.